am joined today by Aldwin Galang, and he is a growth mindset ambassador and founder of BPRSNT, which is Be Present for long form. And he's an impressive individual. The way I found him through my research was I actually saw him incorporating mindfulness into his emails. And I thought that was very exciting because as someone who gets emails every day like crazy, I was like, how does one do that? So I reached out to him, and he's got a whole lot of stuff going on that is really exciting for everybody. So I thought that I'd bring him on the show and introduce you guys to what he's doing. So Aldwin, what's up? Introduce yourself.
Hey everyone. First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Gabrielle, for that wonderful and warm welcome. I do really appreciate it. My name is Alvin, as Gabriella said, and I am very excited and delighted and honored at the same time to be talking about mindfulness in general.
Excellent, excellent. So I wanted to say for our viewers, just as a starting point, what you're doing on the terms of mindfulness and incorporation into your daily life, and how you're helping people on your day-to-day stuff.
Absolutely. So for me, when I first started doing mindfulness, it began on my community college. I was reached out by one of my colleagues, Miguel Powers. And at the very beginning, I was very hesitant of actually attending one of the mindfulness sessions. And I found it really intriguing at the same time. And from that, I was able to basically just tell myself that this is a good learning opportunity for me. And I was able to learn so many things at that time. As a college student, I am exposed to a very robust and fast-paced environment, which can lead to so many different mental health disorders. And one of them, as we all know, and it's very popular in most of higher institutions, is stress and anxiety and depressions at the same time. So when I was doing my research, I found that at Arizona State University that there is at least more than 60.9% of the students reported that they're stressed or experiencing stress during spring of 2019, which I very found that for me, that was very high and very alarming at the same time, considering the fact that students are getting a lot of information from their academic curriculum, and at the same time, they also have their personal life. And the fact that they are experiencing that stress, that could implicate some, what do you call this? Basically, some other stress, and can lead, can basically affect their performance academically.
And personally, it kind
Yeah.
of goes both ways.
Absolutely. So, so from that, I was able to internalize what I've learned, and also realize at the same time the impact of mindfulness in my entire life, of mindfulness in my life. So, at that point, I knew that this is going to be a challenging part for me, and I took that challenge from my heart, because I know that first I'm going to learn from the benefits of mindfulness. And then second is that I was able to apply it to my daily routine. So some of the daily routine or mindfulness routine that I have is one of my favorite mindfulness routine is basically a gratitude journal, which I basically do listing down 5 or more things that I'm grateful for or things that I appreciate. I typically use the Maslow hierarchy and kind of just follow every single one of those and just put one on the list, just to have like a variation in general.
Oh, that's an
And then,
awesome way of doing it. Smart.
yeah, thank you. And then something that I also incorporate with that is also mindful eating. Part of our well-being is the things that we eat. So it's very important that for everyone to be mindful of the things that they're eating. From that, I am not a very picky when it comes to the food that I eat, but I'm more aware of how this is going to affect my body, how is this going to respond, rather than how many calories am I taking, how many sugars am I taking from my body, because I think that also leads to a stress. I think for me, practicing the mindful eating means that I'm getting a portion of things that I need to satisfy the nutrients that my body needs in general to survive all throughout the day. And then one really new things that I do to incorporate mindfulness is washing my hands. Um,
Mhm.
as a person who is pursuing a career in the healthcare professionals, I wanted to incorporate mindfulness into my career, and we all know how effective um, that can wash away or kill germs or by washing our hands. So washing our hands in a way that I just like be careful or like be mindful of like the different styles when I rub my hand, when I wash them, when I put the soap on it, the
Do you use
smell of it.
a different
So
soap?
yeah,
That's the question.
using the different senses of my body from smell, the way it looks, the way it touches. So I use those while while washing my hands, and I consider that as one of my mindfulness routine. And other things that also part of my um, mindfulness routine basically is the breathing meditation and the mantra meditation. Meditations, I usually do it before I go to bed. For me, sleep is very vital. And it's also kind of the same thing with the food that we eat. Sleep is also important for me. If you think about it, it gives us energy, it releases happy hormones, and it's a good thing for our body in general. And from that, I
Definitely.
think before going to bed, yes, before going to bed, I was able to realize that this is such a perfect time to listen and attune to our body and like just like recognizing what are the things that my body feels from my legs all the way to head. It's kind of bizarre, but since I'm trying to pursue a nursing, one thing that I really do is kind of like the same thing as head to toe assessment, but while putting some breathing and focusing and anchoring my foundations for breathing for that one. And then lastly is mantra. This is one of like my favorite thing. Usually my phone give me a notification that it says some words of wisdom, and from that I kind of just reflect it or kind of just like see in what ways that I can apply this mantra in my day. So just really focusing on what's on that time on that day really helps me to kind of just put me in a way that I am present and I'm living in the moment. Um, and then when it comes to those mindfulness routine, I guess one thing that really helps when it comes to build resiliency is that it definitely gives attention and focus. So it improves focus and attentions in general. And for me, in general, like well, basically, resiliency, it's not something that we are born with, it's something that we can learn from it. And a lot of people sometimes are afraid that they are not able to bounce back from difficulties or challenges in their life. However, with the mindfulness routine, for me, I was able to just focus on the moment and ground myself on what are the things that I need to prioritize. Because I think that I mentioned it a while ago that being exposed in a place that is robust and fast-paced environment, it can gives you some stressors in your environment, and I really think that just focusing one step at a time is a really great way on how you can build your resilience. One of my favorite quotes says, "Big lips leads, or big lips begins with small steps," and that kind of just basically helped me to kind of just see smaller things first or doing things that I can do right now before jumping into the bigger things and bigger pictures. And so prioritizing is a really good way in how I build my resiliency and kind of just like when there's a challenges, I know how to visually see and how to approach it. I don't in general, I guess like resiliency also at the same time gives me an opportunity to acknowledge the problem but not dwell on it or not be see it as more of like a problem, rather it's more of like a challenge.
Hmm.
So from those mindfulness routines, it really helps me in general to kind of just um, become a better person, become a person that can focus on one thing at a time and to live at the present moment.
That is great. Like that, you explained it so perfectly. And you mentioned using your phone. It brings the mantras and the words of wisdom. And I was wondering, what are your thoughts because working is becoming so technical based, like everything is very remote, and you got to have Zoom. Obviously we're on Zoom and everybody's on their phones, everybody's like constantly connected to technology. How do you feel about technology within the mindfulness routines? Like, is it hindering people using it too much, or is it helping?
I think there's always a both side of it. It's kind of like if you use anything in moderate, everything will be fine. The thing is that sometimes we don't see or we can't control some of the things that we do, or we are just enjoying using our technology, whether our phone or being on the laptops all the time for learning. I guess like in a good way or in a brighter side of having our technology, it really helps in a way that we kind of connect to one another. Living in a global pandemic is a really challenging time for a lot of people. And I couldn't imagine how people um, don't have a lot of resources and maybe experiencing some of the worst time of their time. And I do believe that having connections through using our technology really enhance the connections and kind of just build a community. In the internet, it's a different sense of community, but it's still a community that we know. I think part of being human is that we're constantly looking for human connections, and it's very powerful. Like every single story is powerful, and that comes within the connections. And without that, I think that people are going to be experiencing a lot of different um, mental health disorder, I would assume, and yeah. So I guess like it's kind of like half and half, depending on how people use it. It will, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's all in moderation. And I actually, going back to how I found you in my research, it was great because, I as I said earlier, within my line of work, and a lot of people, a lot of professionals who are moving into a remote based type setting, they get emails all day every day. And like, it's always a question of how you sign off your email, and everyone's like, what do you even say anymore? Like, have a good day. I don't know what it's going to be. So I used to just say thank you or best regards, but there's always a little bit of stigma around that. And when I found you, and you always said deep breaths, and I thought that was amazing because it speaks to what you were saying. You become present in that moment. And so my question for you would be, how do you think mindfulness will help the future of work as we see it right now?
Sure. So basically, that was a really good questions, and I do think that a lot of workplace are being or basically, I would say that a lot of workplace are experiencing a lot of changes, and the changes are inevitable, and we can't predict how changes will affect every single individual or employees that are working at that workplace setting. And I think that it could be a lot of overwhelming informations that they're getting, whether from their employers and other people that they work with. They also have tons of to-do lists, and whether through the things that they need to prioritize first, and there is also like delegation and the importance of collaboration and teamwork. I do think that mindfulness comes on hand in a way that they bring one person to just check for themselves, because I think that most of the time we're always doing things for other people or things that will help us to survive on every single day. And I think that incorporating mindfulness kind of helps one person to show self-compassion, self-love, and self-kindness to themselves, because it gives you an awareness of like what is your current status at the present. And from that, every like an individual might be able to see what are the things that they need to prioritize, what are the things that they need to actually do, whether through eatings or they need to talk to their boss or anything like that. I really think that mindfulness give in is a really great resource and also a tool for a lot of employees to use for themselves, to kind of just like practice that self-compassion, because I think that we always um, give our effort or our compassion to other people, but sometimes we forget to give compassion to ourselves. And I really think that it's so important to like prioritize yourself first before giving back to others. One of my favorite quote that I always like remind is that from Mother Teresa, she mentions that in order to keep the light lamp burning, you need an oil. So, and an oil could be a source for mindfulness, and it could be in so many different things. Like I mentioned from a while ago, mindfulness routines that I mentioned, like daily gratitude. That gives me, in a sense, that what are the things that I'm grateful for in working environment. Sometimes we forgot to acknowledge that our people that we work are just our co-workers, but sometimes they are really there for us to help us in whether to get through some challenges in our workplace, and that can increase work engagement. And work engagements also, the increase of work engagement also means teamwork and collaboration. And as Walt Disney said, teamwork makes the dream work. And I really think that that is such a really important aspect when it comes to working with others, is that teamwork and collaborations really increase work engagement and like autonomous motivation in general. And I think that those things kind of like come hand in hand, and that will help the overall goal of the company or like the business. So I really think that it plays a very vital and big role, because it gives an every single individual to practice self-compassion, self-love, and self-kindness from themselves, and to do it to others, because empathy and compassion comes after if you do those different things. And I think that those are really important when it comes to giving back and showing your compassion to other people.
Right. And that is, yeah, I'm so glad you brought up employee engagement, because that is such a huge thing right now, since everybody is remote or not, and kind of like in an uncertain time. So, like when you say it's important to have connection regardless of in our whole lives post COVID, but also within your work life, making sure that you are engaged with your job and also within your workplace culture, that can make or break how you're going to be successful and moving forward. So my question would be, how do you think, what is the best way for people like employers to encourage these mindfulness routines and implementing them into their workplace?
Sure. So one good way for me that I really think to tell the employers about the concept of mindfulness is telling them what is it entails, and also why is it important to kind of just adopt it in a workplace, and how it will benefit individual, the group, and the company. So I kind of just see it as like from micro center to meso center and to macro center. And macro center is basically the employers, and it starts within every single one of the employees. And providing that resources to the employers and employees at the same time will kind of help them both the way to achieve the common goal or mission, the vision of the company. So from that, I it is also important to mention some of the evidence-based research that has been published in so many different things. I think one of my favorite thing that I read 2 months ago was from Paul Atkins, entitled "Mindfulness." Mindfulness kind of just like improves work engagement in a university settings, and they mentions how again like it improves like work engagement, it improved performance from one another. So kind of those things and telling explicitly what are the benefits are for about mindfulness, and just like telling them how it is important to prioritize, because I do think that one of the things that one of the things that we typically don't talk about in a workplace is mental health of every single one. And telling the employers about prioritizing mental health aside from physical is as such as important as, again, prioritizing physical. So like telling them some statistics and evidence studies about it will really kind of just give them a brighter view of like how you can tell the employers about it. And there's so many different ways on how employers can implement mindfulness and mindfulness routines and interventions in their workplace. I really think that it really starts with one person, and one person can make an impact. And that could be having a committee or a well-being committee or a mental health committee, whatever committee that they can incorporate mindfulness interventions and help every single one employees to incorporate that to their workplace. And then make sure that I do think as well that getting everyone on board is also important. Again, we're building a community when it comes to mindfulness, and that's a really one thing that I really love about this concept is that sometimes you think that you're alone. Like when everyone start doing mindfulness or meditation in general, they kind of feel like it's hard, I can't do it, but other people also experiencing the same thing. And by having that and telling everyone and people starting to speak up, you're having that community of care in general. So telling them and getting everyone on board is also important. And then one way as well to implement mindfulness routines or intervention is by incorporating it into like trainings for new hires employees. I really think that the very beginning of their part, it's just as important as like when they start working, because at that time I for myself had experience at working at CVS or working at the clinic. I was able to get a lot of trainings and go from one places to another. So incorporating those mindfulness routines and some interventions, just grounding everyone by a 5-minute breathing technique is very powerful for some people. Also, I do think that providing a space for mindfulness is really, really a really cool aspect of like incorporating mindfulness in general into a workplace, because without having, I am a more of like a person that I need when I practice mindfulness, I kind of want to have that sense of peace and calmness. And sometimes like there are so many disturbance and other things going on in the workplace. So providing a space kind of also give them a space for practicing it, and also a space for safe space in general to practice these things.
Right.
And then creating a challenge in the workplace is also one thing that I've tried from before. So one thing that I really did is that be like make sure to make sure that everyone is accountable for the things that we're doing, which is a 30-day meditation every morning. And we every time we meet up in one place, we want to make sure that we have like those informations and kind of just logged in. And I think that is such a cool way to again like have that engagement in one workplace, and also at the same time value the importance of mental health in general. So those are some of the things that employers can implement mindfulness in their workplace. And I'm pretty sure that there's a lot more out there.
But that awesome list so far, you pretty much got them set up, and I really like that you brought up bringing in a space to actually have for a mindfulness area. You know, like I also work as a workplace planning consultant at Tangram, and so I design these spaces. And in a lot of spaces that I've done, we've done wellness rooms, and they've been awesome. You know, like we designed for the five senses, so we make sure, you know, like we pumped in some different smells in there, like a lavender peppermint, and then we had the lighting very soft, and the walls had curtains, so it was also a little bit more calm and quieter. And so, and also it's specifically, you have to make sure that not only do you have a space, but you're focusing on the behavior of that space. So we had rules in these spaces where it was like, okay, when you go in here, no side conversations. You're coming in here for focus work, or you're coming in here to relax and calm down and have a book. You know, like there's no talking. You go outside to talk, you know. So it is a lot about behavior. It's a lot about that one person starting it and being like, okay, this is how we are going to be doing this. So I really appreciate you bringing that stuff up, and I think that's going to really help a lot of people. So for our last thing, I don't want to keep you too long, but I just wanted you to share with the people what you're doing. And I know, you know, tell us about BPRSNT and get us up to date on that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. Just to kind of give a little note on what you said about the behavior, I definitely agree with you on that. One good definitions of mindfulness by John Kabat-Zinn is that mindfulness is bringing our attention and focus to the present without non-judgment. And I think that's also part of like the behavior that you mentioned. So without further ado, I am very excited to announce that I will be launching my poster for BPRSNT called Manifesto Poster that will be available on September 30th of this year. And that kind of gives you all an opportunity to kind of see like more of the things that I've been working on, and how it is important to kind of just have that positive affirmations in our daily lives, or mantras in our daily lives. So aside from that, I also currently doing mindfulness sessions every Monday, 6 p.m. on my Instagram live. So if you guys are interested and you're free, I would love to see every single one of you out there. Everyone is welcome, whatever your skills are. When it comes to mindfulness, I would love to see every single one of you to be part of my workshop sessions. And it's going to be a pretty fun in meeting people and building that community. And last but not the least, I would like to mention, if you're looking for more information about mindfulness and some resources, I put up a website and a blog that you can see and check. It's called bprsnt.squarespace.com, and you'll be able to see some of the cool apps and resources and website that you can also use, because I do believe that there's a lot of information out there that you can check out, and I kind of just put it in one place to kind of help you, especially during this challenging and unprecedented times. I do think that we need one another to show empathy and compassion during this hard times. So if you had happened to have a time, I highly recommend you, and I hope it does help you to develop a sense of well-being, and also to make sure that you're taking good care of your mental health in general.
Awesome. Well, this is great. Thank you so much, Eldwin. It was great to talk to you today, and I hope everybody really enjoyed it as well. It was good stuff. So, you know, you've said it all. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Gabriella.
Have a wonderful rest of the day.